like the idea also of Mikal Bridges. That was the other big acquisition, right, in the offseason. And Bridges, again, talking about not losing sight. You can't lose sight of the way he played in the Detroit series and in the Boston series, just making big plays and big spots, shots, defensive stops, just playing really well. And then I didn't think he had a great series against the Pacers. And I guess I want to start, James, with you. What did you think about his Pacers series, and what do you think about going forward with him?
Yeah, I didn't think that he had necessarily the level of physicality consistently at the point of attack that he needed to have. Yes, he did pick up Halliburton full court. Do I think it was as impactful as the way Nesmith and Nembhard picked up Brunson at full court? I do not. They were in Brunson's shirt. They were making him go east and west. That wasn't necessarily the case with Mikal and Halliburton. I'll say this. I actually have a piece coming out tomorrow on kind of the dilemma the Knicks face with Mikal Bridges this summer. And obviously, I think in Mikal's favor in terms of getting that extension, the Knicks gave up a lot for him. And I think it would be bad optics if they decided that he's not worth the extension or anything of that nature. Now, what I will say, I think there's one kind of conversation piece that hasn't been talked about, and I got this in the column. What does Mikal want to be here? He's a guy whose role has changed here in New York, right? He was the point of attack defender. Nobody in modern NBA history got hit with more screens per game than he did. Does he like that role? He was the third or fourth option on most nights offensively, but he kind of faced the scrutiny of a star player. Does he like that? I would imagine that's not a great situation to be in. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about he was the first one to kind of publicly say anything about the minutes. That's something to monitor. He's the one guy, too, that's not of the core group, that's not a CA, that's not represented by CAA. So the Knicks have an interesting situation, right, where they can offer Mikal 4 years, $156 million. It would seem like that feels like that's the plan. Unless they go big fish hunting and they use that contract to do that. But if you're Mikal, do you also look, I'm the shooting guard version of OG. He makes $212 million. Do I go into the open market next year and try to get that? So I think there's a bit of a dilemma here. We know the starting group didn't work together. The core group didn't work together. They got worse as the season went on. I think there's questions the Knicks really have to ask, and I think there's a question Mikal needs to ask, like, do I enjoy my Knicks experience, and is it benefiting me?
And I think you bring up a good point that people don't really talk about. And I do think that there was an adjustment period for Bridges, and I think for the whole starting five. But I know that in the postseason particularly, his willingness to do whatever it took to win and his buy-in impressed people internally in a way that maybe it wasn't to that level in the regular season. So what he did in the playoffs, I think, really stamped him in terms of a player that they would like to have going forward. Again, James, unless they go big fish hunting, and we'll see. CP, I want to ask you your thoughts generally about OG, but also if you, just in a hypothetical, had to pick Mikal or OG moving forward in some kind of trade that brings back a starter, who would you pick?
Well, I think if you're trading Mikal Bridges, you may be selling a little bit low at this point. I do believe OG Anunoby would field a much stronger package, whether it's for a bigger fish or for a couple more smaller supporting cast mates. But I thought both those guys had some shining moments throughout this year. OG Anunoby is very strong. You talk about the 40-point game against the Denver Nuggets, his ability to shoot the three. He showed you some shot creation ability, and especially when the Knicks needed it in some of these games throughout the playoffs. And yes, he certainly had his moments of struggle, but I do think he would be the stronger participant in a potential trade, even though I'm not looking to trade him. I hope that the Knicks do not trade him because I think he is very important for this team. And hey, let's give him a lot of credit. Outside of the foot injury, which didn't derail his season by any stretch against the Lakers, OG Anunoby had a healthy season. I mean, he played through the whole playoffs. He played majority of the regular season. He had a good year overall. Mikal Bridges, I thought James had some great points there, just in terms of the adjustment to the role that he had to play here, and does he want that role going forward? You could ask a legitimate question whether or not Mikal Bridges is a true starting two guard with this team and with this core, or do you need to slide him down to the 3, OG at the 4, and then figure out where you're going at the 5 as a cat at the 5, and you try to bring in a legit two guard that can put Josh Hart on the bench. But I'm with you, Ian. I thought what we saw from Mikal Bridges, especially in this playoffs, we saw the grittiness that New York was really looking for from this guy, especially in the Detroit series and in the Celtics series. The Pacers series definitely left a lot to be desired, and look, it was an up and down season for him. I thought the most interesting one was when the quote came out about Tibbs, and Tibbs going with the starters, not much of the bench. And then that night, it's Mikal Bridges with the game winner against the Blazers. Nobody does storylines like the New York Knicks. So for him, it was interesting, man. Very much so.
James, CP talked about the starting 5, and we covered it. You covered it a lot. We talked about it in the playoffs. Really going back to January 1, maybe even before that, they were minus 1.2, I think, net rating for the rest of the regular season. And then the playoffs got even worse. I think they were minus 50 before Tom Thibodeau made that starting lineup change. Just within the context of Josh Hart, do you think, is it in the Knicks' best interest to roll this starting 5 out again, assuming everybody's back, or do they have to figure something else out with the starting group?
I have a tough time with this because I understand from a basketball perspective why inserting somebody else for Josh Hart in the starting lineup makes sense in terms of spacing and utilizing that, right? But I also think that there is value in having somebody who's willing to be low maintenance and having somebody who's willing to push the pace and having somebody who's willing to do the dirty work, right? Like no team is perfect. If they were, we would be talking about them as multiple champions and in the finals every year. Like there's always, every team has something that could be improved upon in terms of the aesthetics, right? But Josh Hart provides something that very few people on this roster and in the NBA, quite frankly, provide. And the dude plays his ass off every single night. Up until lately, he was shooting the 3-ball well in the postseason. He was willing to take them in the postseason. I think people forget that this is a guy that was dealing with knee stuff back at the All-Star break. He got basically a cut above his eye. His eye was swollen, and then he dislocated his finger. So this is a guy that's been playing through a lot of stuff, and it's not just like stuff that just popped up. The knee thing has been has happened for a while, and if people remember, he missed a few games right outside of the break. So he clearly, it feels like something took place during the break if he had to miss some games right out of it. So this is a guy to me that I understand why Tibbs rides with him, man. Like, it's hard to get guys like that who are willing to put in that type of effort every single night. And of course, every player has its flaws. But I think there's a way to get to the next level with Josh Hart in the starting lineup, but you'd have to work around some stuff around him. And I don't know if some people see that worth it, but I find value in those type of guys.